coming today. As a way of introduction, I've been in the business 32 years, mostly chefing, mostly cooking, fine dining for 10 years in New York City and Chicago, and then I owned a medium-sized high-end catering business for almost 20 years. And in that time, I learned how to cook and run businesses, restaurants, catering. And then what happened was I started a family. My youngest daughter was really sick and the doctors couldn't help her. And we went all organic food thinking as a last resort. It was just a last resort because she was going to the hospital a lot. And then intensive care started. And the organic food helped her. And she hasn't been to the hospital since. And so what I did then is I tried to figure out how to move my business in a cost-effective way into being run more sustainably. So more local, more organic, zero waste, like that, bringing my team along. And now I consult around North America, working with institutions, restaurants, food service companies, to help them in a cost-effective way head into the deeper end of the sustainability pool, if you will. So Melanie's going to introduce herself, and then we're going to give you some ideas on how to do that. Yeah, often what I did as running restaurants in my catering company, and even now in consulting, I come up with a good idea. And then my style is then I just charge, let's go get that done. And I was, one example was I think I was the first zero waste kitchen in the Midwest. In 2006, I figured out how to be a zero waste kitchen. And when I came up with the idea, at home one day, like we're going to stop sending anything to a dump. We're going to recycle plastic wrap and gloves and compost when there's no composting in Chicago, and on and on and on. And it was one of those ideas where I didn't really tell the team what was up. I'm like, here's what we're doing, we're going to go get it done. And I didn't bring them along. And so for like the next 4 months, it was like pulling teeth, heading towards a zero waste kitchen, right? And then I realized, like, I can't keep pulling this train alone. This is just one example. And I sat them down and I said, here's what's going on. We're sending garbage to a dump. A dump is really somebody else's backyard. It's not our backyard, but it's somebody's backyard. We don't know where this stuff is going. So if we stop sending stuff to the dump, we're helping the world. And they're like, oh, that's why we're doing it. And then they got on board and boom, it was done. So you all have examples of good ideas that you've had. And most of you probably do get the team involved. But it always starts with your people. And once they're engaged, everything can be accomplished. I'm going to correct this a little bit for people that aren't in schools. This was built for K through 12, but just if you're a restaurant, this education and it is for staff and customers, right? The farm to schools, chains to farm to fork. The merchandising food, if you're a finer restaurant, is like, how does that plate of food look, right? So just change that for what industry you're in, because I know it's not built for everyone in the room. So, and to me, assessment and vision can be changed. Today we're starting with assessment with you. Some people start with assessment, some people start with where do we want to get to. So we're going to talk about assessment first. The good news is, as leaders in where you work, you're already measuring all kinds of things. You know your food cost, you know your labor cost, you know how many hours the dishwashers are working, you know your electric and gas bill probably, you know how much food you're buying. So you already have the basics, you're building P&L sheets, you're looking at them weekly or monthly. You have a good handle on monies coming in and out, and people, staff coming in and out of your business. There's a whole other level of assessment that we're going to talk about now. One thing that helps is, like, let's pretend you want more local food. How much local food is coming in now? How much organic food is coming in now? Schools are trying to eliminate corn syrup. Maybe other people besides schools are, like hospitals. So it's nice to know how much corn syrup is in your storeroom today. These are just examples. When you see this number, it's a little shocking. So what's happening in this school, and it's not wrong, we're just measuring, we're trying to get a benchmark of where are we today, is 86% of the food that's coming in their door is canned, frozen, packaged, period. So it's hard for the vendor that happens to have this contract tell the school after seeing this, we're scratch cooking. Next slide. Another thing that I think is important is knowing how much energy kitchens are using. We're going to talk about separate metering in a minute, but this is after separate metering a kitchen, how much energy and water is the kitchen using. These kind of measurements help you get a stronger foundation besides the P&L statement on what's happening in your facility. And so what I discovered on this path of consulting, and what I first started doing with my catering business is there's a lot of dart throwing out there. We're going to buy local food. We want organic food. We're going to start composting. We want to use less disposables. You all have your own dart throws. You have your passions. You have what's important to you. And usually that's not wrapped into usually there's not an assessment done so you don't know where you stand. And often it's not wrapped in a holistic strategy, like that slide we showed you 5 slides back. And so you get on the path on that dart throw. We're going to start composting, team. And you can get it done. And anyone here composting in their facility? And how long did it take you to make that happen? 6 months, great.
It was happening before I started, for probably about 3 months before.
Okay. So anybody buying local food today? Great. How much local food are you buying? What percentage to total buy?
Under 10.
Under 10%? That's fine. And you? 20%. And how long did it take you to get to this under 10% local food?
About a year and a half.
Okay. So when you make a decision like that, it's a powerful decision, and as the owner of a restaurant, which you shared with me before people got here, you're going to get it done. And often, though, it's helpful to wrap it in, like, where can we find the money? And that's what I'm going to talk about now. What is a holistic plan? To take all those dart throws or those dreams and fold them into a plan that's measured. And so how do we find time and money to do this? Because this costs more money. If we go right to that dart throw of local organic food, and I don't mean to make the farmer defensive, but if we go right to that, it costs more money. So how do we do this? My first idea with people I work with is always make your menu smaller. I think a lot of us survey our customers, and our customers always say, we want more variety. And I think what they're not saying is we want better food. So that's hard to say to people who run the cafeteria. It's hard to say to the restaurant owner. It's just hard to say to people. So we say we want variety. You make your menu smaller. I took a school out west from 2 hot entrees to 1, and they had more time, right? That's the first place I like to find. The other thing I always recommend is separate metering your kitchens. Currently, we in this room are used to lots of responsibility. We can hold a lot. That's why we're the bosses of where we work. So one more thing that you are able to hold is how much energy and water you're using currently in our commercial kitchens. Hardly any of them are separate metered. So we have no idea how much energy and water we're using. And so, in general, the cold water's on all day, the grill's on all day, the walk-in cooler is not closed tight, and we have no idea how much energy and water we're going through. And we're not responsible for it. Because of your skill set that says I can hold a lot, one more thing I always say, separate meter the kitchens, food service director, chef, you're in charge of that. Every month I want to see less and less water and energy happening, and we find money there.
An outcome of looking at energy is developing a maintenance schedule. And this is a valuable tool because it can help you prolong the life cycle of your equipment. The other thing that it can do is it can help you develop an equipment replacement plan, which is a cheaper way to go about remodeling the interior of your kitchen. You may not need to do a complete redo, but if you understand how well each individual piece of equipment is performing and what it needs on a monthly basis in terms of maintenance, you will spend less on repairs. If something were to happen, if you weren't maintaining it in that time, and you'll have a sense of how much it costs, how much it truly costs to keep the kitchen running, and you can develop in your 5-year plan a budget and a time frame for replacement for that one big piece of equipment that you really know you need. So developing a maintenance schedule it has a lot of value.
And then just a piece about this is often people are buying these Energy Star happy equipment and they're on all day. A school I'm working at north of Chicago has an Energy Star new grill that I helped them buy. They need it 3 hours a day. It's on 7 hours a day. And so I am a proponent of buying Energy Star equipment, but I'm also a proponent of writing an energy management policy and just watching, like, does that have to be on all day? What's the plan for the convection ovens today, team? And actually writing what's going to go in the oven when and having it on your prep list so your ovens are on a few hours and not all day, unless you really need your equipment on all day. You probably don't. One of the things that like I said, I went to zero waste. I found out a few things. One is I realized that garbage dumps are somebody else's backyard. And when that hit home, I didn't like that. I was sending things to a dump. The other is how much oil goes into packaging. The average American is going through 120 gallons of oil just through the packaging in our food a year. So we're using oil, we're buying this packaging, and we're throwing it out in general. Some of us are recycling it. So one of the things I do with places is I try to reduce the amount of disposables. And I'll give you an example. Again, in the school district, that same 5 school district, the ladies did a lot of cupping where they took bulk food and put it into a cup, and then a 2-ounce cup in this case, and then they put it up on the shelf, and then the line went a little faster. And they were just used to cupping. They've been cupping for years and years and years. It was normal. And so we stopped the cupping, and so we got to stop buying all those disposables. We got to stop throwing them away. And we found 25 hours a month in labor that they did use to cup to now scratch cook. Remember, I went from 2 mediocre entrees to 1 better entree. So now we found more time for them to chop and make more delicious food, which then increased top-line sales. All these things are all point at increasing top-line sales, saving money, increasing sales. The easiest way to increase sales, no matter what kind of establishment you have, is doing food that really tastes good. And so back to that, setting up a holistic 5 or 10 year plan for where you want to get to, probably in 5 or 10 years, most of you want to be using all real plates and doing way more scratch cooking with local organic food. So let's just try that on. So if that's the case, we want to head that way, then you can't redo your kitchen tomorrow. You have to start to practice these and figure out what exactly you need before you redo your kitchen. It's just what happens out there. What I've learned is that all these institutions especially are redoing their kitchens, serving the same food, spending money they don't even know what their 10-year menu is going to be. They haven't thought about it. They know they need a new kitchen. And the consultants will be happy to sell you a new kitchen and fill it with equipment you may or may not need. And this is just another example of going from reducing waste and making food look better. So here's styrofoam on the left, real tray on the right. There's no clear-cut winner in the argument of disposables over real plates. If you talk to the dishwasher companies, they have an argument that says go real. If you talk to the disposable companies, they have an argument that says stay with disposables. And so in my mind, there's no clear-cut, obvious scientific fact that says go to real. But in 20 years, who here thinks they're still going to be using disposable plates where they work? Mostly, we're going to head towards real. So I always tell people, come up with a plan, a 5 or 10 year plan to get a dishwasher in and go to real plates. Because where the styrofoam is going is just to really, to a garbage dump. It's not really helping anybody. And then, to me, one of the secrets is local food and organic food. I'm starting to end my presentations with this idea because it's, to me, almost the last place you start. And it doesn't have to take long to get there to this local food and organic food idea, but without a plan and without a way to find the money to pay for it and to find the time to chop it it's not gonna work in general. So local food is near and dear to me. It's almost all I eat at home all year. And I've been to a couple hundred farms, and it's important for me to keep the money